not that I don't want you here. It's something about the way you stare.
Hey besties, it's your girl Sheridan S. Davis, your favorite church girl influencer, and I'm back with yet another video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Y'all, I had no plans, and when I say no, I mean zero plans on reviewing this second half of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Just get so hectic, and to commit to doing reviews for any show, especially shows that come on either Saturday or Sunday, it's just a very difficult feat for your girl. But y'all, when I watched this episode, I had so many thoughts. Shout out to Carlos King, Kingdom Reign. Shout out to the entire cast. And a huge shout out to Dr. Francis. Y'all, I got a lot to say. So let's get into the review of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Y'all, my heart was palpitating. Let me first stop and tell y'all this. I love this show. I love all of the couples on this show. But let me tell y'all what I am not. This is not a stan channel, a stan page for none of these folks, okay? None of them. I am not a millennial, milliliter, none of it. I am not a stan for none of these people. I am able to hold them accountable, unlike some people that I see on these internets who review this show. So, with that being said, I would like to look at this from what I think is a fair point of view. If you have a different point of view, I am welcome to your point of view. Just put it in the comments. Let's all talk. Let's be respectful. Okay, I need y'all to thumbs up this video. Okay, y'all know I broke my nail. Anyway, nail day is coming up. Thumbs up this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. And let's talk about these fools. They're not fools. They are brilliant minds of Love and Marriage Huntsville. We start off exactly where the season ended. Mel and Martell. Mel is performing at some outdoor event. Yada, 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 yada. She the first black person, the first woman or something. I don't know. She the first something to do something. And praise the Lord. Martell has brought the kids. He made it a point to bring the kids on his week, because he wanted to throw that in her face. Okay, you weren't willing to bring them to my week release, but I brought them to see you on your week. Martell is not that diplomatic. Y'all, you came with them to film. Let's stop. Anyway, so Maurice and Kimmy are the first to show up. Remember, Letitia had set up this retreat. Well, she ain't really set it up. Dr. Francis and his wife, I think her name is Marlo, they have set up a couple's retreat for the Huntsville cast. So the first to show up to say a retreat are Kimmy and Marie, and in come Lewis and Tiffany, who I forgot were even on this show, because one thing about these reality shows, it is one show that is on the screen, but then there's another showdown happening on social media. So with all of the happenings that have been going on in social media, it's really been between the Hopes, the Scotts, and the Scotts. So and Destiny here and there. So I really ain't even been thinking about Tiffany and Lewis. But honey, tonight, they made their presence known in all the wrong ways. They are sure to tell us that Marcel and Tisha are late. And from what it sounds like, they are habitually late. That would be a bit of a problem for me as a friend. You know, 5-10 minutes late, cool, but we talking a whole long time late. That means you just don't respect my time, and I got a big problem with that. I don't know how much I have, but I don't want to spend it waiting on you. Okay, so anyway, Tiffany, and if y'all see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes. Tiffany, in the middle of Dr. Francis talking and explaining what they're getting ready to do, she excuses herself not ask for permission, not asking, do you mind, or I'm sorry, I know you have something planned. Would you mind if I step off? None of that. Hey, y'all, I told my husband I got a work call, so I'm gonna have to leave y'all. And got up and left. That was very rude. And while you might have a work call, whatever you might have to do, you didn't come here just only with your husband. So you should have wanted to communicate with somebody besides him, like to the group that I, am going to be taking a work call. But honestly, you shouldn't have scheduled any work during this time. All y'all knew y'all was filming. So why would you schedule any work during this retreat? The only person who should be surprised by said retreat is Marcel, allegedly. That was crazy to me. This lady is literally the busiest non-Chamber of Commerce member of all time. And it's giving very much Diane from Why Did I Get Married? Y'all know Tyler Perry movie, like she's giving me Diane. And I ain't like it. Dr. and Mrs. Francis they were very clear once she left. Dr. Francis, he basically took it up with her husband, and he said to him, like, we cleared all of our schedules, all the appointments and etc. that we have, because, we are real psychologists. We are real psychologists. So we cleared all of our appointments to have this for y'all on y'all platform to make y'all marriages better. The very least y'all could have done was be there. And he started writing on the whiteboard like Jesus was writing on the sand, huh? And he was like, commitment. It's important to be committed. It's also important to note that your marriage is only as strong as your last obstacle or last challenge. And I was like, do tell, young man, do tell. Mind y'all, I am single, so I'm trying to gain all these lessons right now, so I don't have to be looking like Tiffany and Lewis, okay? Or Mel and Tail, okay? So that was waiting. We're only in the first couple minutes of this show, and I'm already gasping. Tiffany, to me, is showing a lack of commitment, and even to the process, and even to their marriage. And she makes her call, and Lewis comes back there, and she is still back there after getting off of the phone, because now she is responding to emails. You didn't think to get off the phone and then come right back into the room? Okay. So Lewis tells her that Dr. Francis is basically about to get in her behind about her lack of commitment, and she deflects by asking, are the other Scots here? And he says no, and she goes, like, she wants to process in her mind that they're not here so she can use this card to play later. I don't like Tiffany. I do not like her. So Marcel and Tisha finally show up, and it's clear that they are hours late. But initially I'm annoyed with them, especially when I hear them, talking amongst each other, saying that the Francises, specifically Mrs. Marlowe Francis, doesn't look too happy with them. But we come to find out that the reason why they were either even later than they were going to be, because y'all was already going to be late now. We ain't going to blame this girl death on y'all. That ain't why y'all was late. Y'all was later because of that. Tisha had lost a friend from either high school or college or something. And she is very devastated that she lost that friend. Baby, I know what that's like. Having lost a friend a year ago, I have lost a couple high school friends, and so I know what that's like, and my heart goes out to her, to that family who has experienced that loss. One thing I actually do love and will acknowledge is how Marcel was so comforting to his wife. He got out, opened the car door for her. Of course he would. In that regard, he's a gentleman. But he was attentive. He was rubbing her back, her arms and stuff. And I feel like that's the Tisha and Marcel that we need to see, because sometimes Marceau keeps playing on TV and he is very misogynistic, and to see him actually be soft with her was a beautiful thing to witness. So I could see the love, because honestly, before they said that girl died, I was thinking about the Francises. I would have had turned into Iyanla Vanzant when the Braxtons decided they was gonna be latest don't know what with them.
I ate in the car out my lot to be here to honor my commitment. Y'all stay and participate in this. I don't.
Baby, I would have been up and out, but you know what? The girl had died, and I can see at least why she would love him in that moment. So then we're weaving out of this retreat because Martell and Melody are not married, therefore they're not invited to the retreat. So we see Martell picking up his mama Marlene. It's too many Mars on this show. Taking her with him to they're going to pick up the kids from the last day of school. Of course, Melody is going to come up because Martell can't not talk about Melody on this show. And the other way around, too. Celine says basically that she is tired of Melody trying to chop her down because she's bitter. It's all right to be mad, but get that bitterness out. I hate when y'all do this. I hate when y'all do this. When someone has been wronged and they are reacting, especially a couple years after, you don't get to then label them as bitter. You don't get to label that woman as bitter, especially in a negative context. If she is bitter, she has every right to be bitter. When her husband of over a decade was definitely cheating on her for years and fathered a child during her marriage, she has every right to feel whatever she feels about Martell. If she wanted to come and drive a car over his body, she has a right to feel like that, because he did not care when he brazenly had an affair with a teenager. Pause. She ain't really no teenager. But with a teenager on her, and then parades her around and is buying cars and all that, matching cars and all that stuff. Yes, she can feel however she wants to feel. So, Miss Marlene, please go on now, because you done been through stuff with Martell's daddy. Do we get to tell you not to be bitter about that? Girl, when I tell y'all, I love to respect my elders. Y'all know I am saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, baptized with fire, okay? But Miss Marlene and her bob and her eyeshadow was tiptoeing on my last nerve in this scene, because it's the nice nastiness of it all. I've never done anything to her. Yes, you have. We've seen you talk about her on this show. What are you talking about, Miss Marlene? Issue with Marlene is you keep trying to protect your boy, and that is a grown man who is throwing missiles. So when she shoot back, so what? So she says to him, don't try to get on Facebook and Instagram and be disrespectful when I haven't done nothing to you. I've been nothing but good to you. No, ma'am. No, you haven't. You were nothing but good to her in the marriage. But to save face for your son, you definitely were being nice, nasty on screen. Anyway. So, the marriage retreat kicks back up, and Dr. Francis tells Lewis that he is protecting his wife at the expense of his growth. And I could not agree more. As he is saying this, Tiffany is like smirking, because she knows she thinks she's about to throw that draw two out and say, well, the Scots weren't here. That's what she thinks. So she's smirking like, okay. So Tiffany lies blatantly and says she hadn't come out yet. It was okay to take the call because she was waiting on the other couple so that they could all participate together. Tiffany, use a stringy hair lie. That's what you are. Y'all, I can't stand this lady. Lord Jesus. Dr. Francis basically tells them, you ain't here for them. You here for your marriage. And so she says, work is a priority, but I'm here. Dr. Francis says, work is a priority. You don't sleep with work. You don't eat work. You don't drive work. You don't breathe work. Girl, how is work a priority at the retreats? At the retreat, girl. Who is flying the kite in this girl's mind? I don't know. She says, I schedule different things. And he said, you are going to schedule your way out of your marriage. And baby, when I tell you, I can see it happening. I can see these two if they don't acknowledge, because that's their problem, they refuse to acknowledge their issues. If they don't acknowledge their issues, I could see them not being together. Child, Maurice and Tisha are the brother and sister that everybody has. They are laughing on the low, and I would have been laughing too. Tiffany says, well, we're in unison about the amount of work that we're putting in. And me and Kimmy looked at her like, it's not adding up, sis. Weren't you the person on this here show telling us that you work too much, that your husband think you work too much, which is why he don't want to have a baby with you? Come on, Kimmy, with the assist, because it's not adding up. It's not adding up. So Tiffany says, I am 100% present at work and 100% present at home. And me and Kimmy are confusion because you can't be 100% and 100%. You only got 100% to give. So when you are at home, if you are focusing on work at home, then home will go lacking and vice versa. The thing is, with balance, there is no such thing as a balanced life. All the skills will not be balanced. Becoming successful is to know when to put one up and when to put one down. But none of it is, you're never going to have work-life balance. No. But if at 5 o'clock I'm doing more work and less home, then I'm winning. But at 7, I'm doing more home than at work. You gotta know when to do what. Kimmy says that is impossible, and I fully agree. And she also says that, what is Tiffany and her husband last name? I don't know their last name. We know the rest of their last name. Tiffany and her husband, Louis, that they are very opinionated about everybody else's marriage, but they are very resistant when it comes to getting help with their own marriage. And that girl ain't wrong. Tiffany and Louis. Everybody ain't wrong now. Everybody ain't wrong. Dr. Francis then introduces a game to the couples. It's giving 3-legged race. So each couple are to bind 2 of their legs together, 1 leg from each person like this. And they are to rope this pair of legs together and walk around. I'm so childish for that. For 15 minutes. And so I was right. I had did the prediction in my head of who was going to be good at this. And I knew it was going to be Marceau and Tisha. Marceau and Tisha, first of all, this game is about leadership. It's about communication. And it's about moving in unison, when to give way to each other. And so I knew Marceau and Tisha were going to do good with this. I'm telling y'all have so much to say about their marriage, and it's actually very disgusting. I was on Tisha's live today, and I also went on Melody's live. I usually don't go on these people's lives, but I went on both of them today, and the amount of comments talking about Tisha in a very negative light were so disheartening that you all would be that brazen to talk about that girl like that, and then to talk about her marriage. Listen, yes, Marcel and Tisha have bumps in their marriage. Number one, let's be clear, there have been no receipts, no real substantial receipts that this man is cheating on her. But if he was, most of y'all that are watching Love and Marriage Huntsville get cheated on every day. You're in an open relationship and you don't even know it. So I think it's very judgmental to keep hounding her about your man is cheating. What you gonna do? Your man is cheating. Your man is cheating. Like, stop. Leave this girl alone. There is no proof. Y'all have not come up with a receipt yet. So leave her alone. Secondly, I think it's disgusting to think that because you see a snapshot of their lives that you know the entirety of their marriage, and you don't. Something about their marriage works for them, which is why they are successful in business, their family, and honestly, with being together. I know some of y'all are on this. Just because you married for a long time don't mean it's a good marriage. It's good for her and it's good for him. They work together. Mind your own marriage. Ooh, I had to get that off my chest. Marcel and Tisha are killing it. They were even able to run a little bit. Their marriage works for them. Kimmy and Maurice were a little bit of a fool. And if you pay attention, like Kimmy says, their quest was indicative of their marriage. You know, we have seen where Maurice has pushed Kimmy as far as her vocation is concerned, trying to push her into becoming an entrepreneur and all this stuff. And while that is good, she said while they were, he was holding her, "You're holding me too tight." And he let her go. And she like, "I didn't want you to let me go. I don't want to not be with you. I don't want you to not lead me. Just loosen up a little bit." Y'all, that was a word. Like, honestly, how much is Dr. Francis getting paid on this show? Because y'all need to pay him more. Honestly, if Mel and Martell would have went to Dr. Francis together, they might have been able to make it. Then we see Tiffany. And she's like, "I just feel trapped. I feel trapped. Can you pick me up?" And Lewis is picking her up and all this stuff. And if you know that this is an exercise for the marriage, you don't think you should try? Maybe you shouldn't use words like trapped. So is that how you feel about the marriage? You're coasting? You want him to pick you up and do all the work? Get these folks off my screen. That the legs tied together represent their union, while the outside legs represent the independent parts. Because when you get married, the two shall become one, but you're still one. I am a single whole person, right? Or at least trying my best to be whole. A single person. When you get married, it is two whole humans coming together. You don't completely lose your independence. You become interdependent. Not independent, not dependent, interdependent. That's the goal. But anyway, next we see Mel and Stormy. And Mel wasn't in this episode too much, was she? Baby, we see Mel and Stormy. And so Mel wasn't in this episode too much, was she? So we see them, and Melody is walking into Stormy's house, as a lot of people do when they film these reality shows, because production's already in there. So why I'm finna keep knocking? Because evidently you can't hear that I'm at the door, and Carlos and them and tell you to answer the door. He comes in, and we see Stormy on her Nam Yo Horengekyo and playing with chakras and playing with music and stuff, because they trying to get they zen. Y'all know I ain't got no chakras, okay? I'm saved by his power. Whew, I'm saved. I don't have all that, but praise the Lord. Oh, glory to God. They end up talking about the concert, and Melody is pretty much catching Stormy up about where she is with Martell. And she pretends like she was surprised to see him at this concert. Y'all, okay. It is clear through all of the interviews and lives and stuff that they have been doing. And Carlos King just dropped a podcast with Melody. He interviewed Melody on there. It's clear that Melody had made the decision to not film with Martell. Okay, the whole first half of the season, they did not film together. Okay, it was clear that they have now made a decision. She has now made a decision to film with him. Whatever their reason is, it is, but they made that decision. So please stop pretending like, yeah, I was surprised. No, you wasn't, Melody. So, Stormy basically asked, how did Miss Vanessa, Melody's mom, feel about Martell, and asked how she feels about Miss Marlene. And she said, yeah, I love her very much, but honestly, that relationship breaking was a casualty of the war. And at the end of the day, that's his mama, not mine. And Melody, I am no Melody stan. I already told y'all that. But that's the smartest thing you've ever said, because y'all really be trusting these men family. And that scares me. Because these men, mom, especially the mamas, you can't trust them. You cannot trust them, because they will know that their son that had a whole baby on you, know that they got a whole girlfriend, all the things. They will be fully aware and will leave you in the dark, because that's their boy. So yeah, Melody, continue to protect your peace, because yes, Miss Marlene did get on this TV and pretend with her Juicy Jerry curl, it was really dry, that you were lazy and that you were working Martell like a slave. Like, Miss Marlene, come on now. Going back to the retreat, they have dinner. It's our final scene of the night. They have dinner, and at this dinner, we discovered that Tiffany has attachment issues, which makes perfect sense. Not only has she been adopted, but she tells us that her adoptive father or her parents have been on drugs for a substantial amount of time in her childhood. Baby, I knew that Tommy DeBarge, because that's who her daddy looked like, had indulged. Y'all was not gonna tell me that her daddy is not in the DeBarge family. I know he is. But anyway, no shade to the DeBarges. Y'all know I love him. I've been thinking about you. Okay, back to the Dr. Francis let us know that she has had 3 major losses. Number 1, her birth parents being abandoned by them. Number 2, her adoptive parents, because they were emotionally unavailable, because they was attached. They was in love with the girl. Number 3, allegedly. And number 3, her first marriage. And honestly, that's 4, because not only did she get divorced, but the man did too. Girl, you need a straight jacket. Dr. Francis is pointing all this out to her, and Lewis says, yeah, well, that's life. I mean, things happen in life. And I'm just like, shut up. Shut it up. Francis said, you like to think your way through your feelings, but you can't think your way through your feelings. You have to work through them. And baby, I don't know if I've ever identified with something more on this show. I am a person who tries to think their way through their feelings. Currently, right now. I need to see Dr. Francis. And so Dr. Francis also says to Tiffany that you basically may want a child because you are afraid of abandonment and of being alone. Their 2 older children are like 15 and 16. So they on their way out the house. She needs somebody to attach to who will not leave her. That was good, doctor. That was so good. And so Marcel basically says, pardon me. But while we're talking about time, I would like to know how would you function with we talking about all this business stuff, and you're saying you want a new baby, but you're not, like, basically you're not showing any evidence that you was work less, but you want to have a baby. Tiffany replies to Marcel by saying, I work best in chaos. I I hate when parents are this selfish. Marcel says, so you're going to bring a human life into chaos? And I couldn't agree with him more. Y'all don't like when Marcel be right, but I'm with him when he right. Why are you so selfish that instead of working out your need for interaction or whatever, because she says she don't even like being alone, she needs human interaction at all times, she needs relationships, etc., or working on yourself in therapy, instead of saying, why are you comfortable and okay with the idea of, instead of going to therapy, which you have the means to do, that really is the thing with these reality stars. All of them are a little off. Y'all won't go to therapy and y'all got the means. A real therapist, because not the one needing them saw. Okay, a real one. Dr. Francis, one of them. Not Dr. Sherry. A real therapist. Y'all got the means to do so. That is a privilege. Y'all have insurance. That is a privilege. There are so many people who have emotional, mental health issues that cannot even afford to go to therapy. We don't talk about that. They can't afford to go to therapy. So the bottle becomes their therapy. Church becomes their therapy. Weed becomes their therapy. But you are able-bodied. You got ample pockets. And instead of saying, I am going to go and work on me, you say, well, I am scared to be alone, so I'm going to use a child as an emotional support dog. Yo. In the Twilight Zone? What is wrong with Tiffany? And she keeps saying this stuff out loud. It's like, girl, you keep saying that out loud. Dr. Francis asked Lewis, how many philosophy books have you read? And Lewis says, a lot. Dr. Francis said, I can tell. And Lewis says, well, yeah, that's why the student becomes the teacher. And Marcel said, you're the teacher? And Lewis says, in this marriage I am. And I said, woo, me and Tiffany had the same. You're not. You don't even speak up for yourself, Lewis. How are you teaching? She sunned you in the confessional, Lewis. How are you teaching, Lewis? In my super voice. Who are you teaching, Lewis? So me and Tiffany definitely had the same facial expressions, because Tiffany runs circles around this man, and instead of speaking up for himself, or instead of telling her, I don't really want to do it this way, he will really acquiesce because he's thinking his way through his feelings instead of doggone working through it. Dr. Francis, somebody get this man some type of award. Because he is dealing with, I don't know why Lewis is here. If he is not receptive to listening, you just, warthog, shut up. Everything Dr. Francis says, I don't know about that. First of all, let me tell you, you could read all the philosophy, because you ain't say psychology, books that you want to. You don't have the credentials to go up against a doctor. That's like your big behind telling an MD, well, I don't think I have high blood pressure. Who are you to tell me what I see based on the schooling that I've had? Kimmy jumps in It says, Dr. Francis has been married 46 years. He is an expert in his field. He is, after all, a doctor. Yet you as a couple, have 2 failed marriages between you. And y'all been married for 46 seconds. Yet y'all want to give all the advice in the world to some, and y'all have no qualifications. Please advise on the advice. I was listening like, speak, Kimmy, speak. And so Dr. Francis looks at Tiffany and her husband, and he says that everything isn't great on the home front as y'all make it out to be. And Tiffany says, I want to know what that means as we make it out to be. It means exactly what he said. So Dr. Francis says, the first level of playing games, y'all remember how I talked about playing games on the whiteboard in the beginning? The first level of playing games is to actually play a game. The next level of playing games is when you are called out for playing a game and then you act like you're not playing a game. I said, oh? And baby, he was reading them left to right. And Marcel is smirking for 3 reasons, I believe. Because number 1, he ain't in the hot seat this time. Number 2, he's been in the right about Tiffany and Lewis. And number 3, Marcel knows good TV. Marcel is low-key another producer on this show. Y'all, this has been good. That Lewis said, you saying my marriage is a game? No, I think that y'all are playing. That's what he said. Next case. Who gonna check him, boo? Anyway, that was it. The episode was so good. I'm sorry this is a long review, but it was so meaty. I love y'all, and I can't wait for y'all to talk to y'all in the next episode. Have a good night.